Five Nights at Candy's is a series of Five Nights at Freddy's fan games created by Emil Ace Mako. It has a few games in the series so far: Five Nights at Candy's, Five Nights at Candy's 2, Five Nights at Candy's 3, Fanverse, and the currently in development and massively hyped game Five Nights at Candy's 4. Do I have a thing for numbered games? Anyway, all of these games are in a way part of the Fazbear Fanverse initiative. The fourth game and Fanverse are both fully funded projects by Scott, while the first three games were passion projects, which are also a part of the initiative, as there are ports of the games being worked on currently. In general, I'm going to go over every game in the series to talk over the gameplay and of course the overarching story of the games. There's also a remaster of the original game aptly named Five Nights at Candy's Remastered, which I will also briefly go over as it gives us something new to see. Of course, if you do enjoy my videos, please do subscribe and like the video. It means a lot to me and I hope to be able to make more of these one day while earning some money. Yeah, very blunt, I'm broke as shit. So without further ado, let's start with Five Nights at Candy's, the original, the OG, the top dog. The original game was released on July 18th of 2015. Now this was a bit of an interesting situation in the FNAF part of the internet. Now I might be speaking out of my ass here, but if I remember correctly, this entire project of Emil started after he shared a few images of his original characters, Candy and Cindy. They went insanely popular and people really wanted a game, and boom, he decides to make a game. It was in development for a few months. This, for older FNAF fan games, is a pretty long development time, and there's a few reasons we can still see online. Through the devs' posts on GameJolt, which are mostly scribbled out now, they say they were busy with school stuff and were stuffed with exams and such. As well, they decided to try and make it as different as possible while still keeping the classic FNAF feel. This led to them making a lot of cool mechanics for the first game, which I'll go over now while talking about the gameplay. So the first game is actually pretty in-depth with the sheer number of characters and systems in place. Some of them fail while others succeed, but all in all I found it to be a really fun experience. We have a total of 7 characters, and even that's a bit iffy. But moving on, the ones that attack us on night 1 are Candy and Cindy, the cats who work in tandem. They're clearly based off of the Bonnie and Chica dynamic from FNAF 1, but with a small twist. Candy takes both sides and Cindy takes the right. Candy's path to our office is Cam 1, where he starts, into Cam 2, where he chooses between Cam 5 and 9, after which he proceeds to Cam 8, where he again chooses between Cam 7 and 3. If he chooses to go to Cam 7, he proceeds to Cam 6 and enters our office through the left door. Instead, if he goes to Cam 3, he will continue to Cam 4 and enter the door on the right. Cindy, unlike Candy, has one set path and she goes through Cam 12, 2, 5, 3, and then finally 4 before she reaches our door. Now, after all this door talk, I guess I should explain them next, huh? Our only defense mechanism, just like in FNAF 1, are these doors. You might notice there's also a window in the middle. Each of them are closable with this neat little white button near them. They also have an accompanying mechanic in this overheating bar, or whatever the fuck it's called. Basically, when the doors are closed, they will fill up slowly, and once the bars are full, they will start taking huge hits at your total battery. Another thing that slowly whittles away at our
sweet, succulent AA batteries
is our cameras. There are 12 cameras and they are all numbered as Cam 1 all the way up to Cam 12, but they also have names, shockingly enough, but they're not really important. They're mostly just like main stage, parts and service, and whatnot. However, it is also important to mention that we can't see anything on them without using our night vision. This is a neat gimmick toggled by clicking on the camera you want to actually see a second time. However, you don't have to toggle each camera when you swap them. You have to re-toggle the night vision upon dropping your monitor though. It's genuinely really intuitive, so that's about it. The last thing to mention is that the night vision wastes quite a bit more power. In total, we have 9 battery bars, which doesn't really matter since in the code it's still percentage based. But yeah, anyway, you don't want to keep the doors closed too long as it'll drain your power, and if you run out of said power, Candy will come play you his hot new mixtape just like Freddy in FNAF 1 and then murder you because you refuse to buy it. The final unique thing about Candy and Cindy is their glowing eyes, which, if I'm gonna be completely honest, I kinda dislike this gimmick. In theory, it's really cool as we can see them no matter where they are without night vision. We can also see them when they are at our doors, making cameras completely worthless on night 1. The rest of my problems with the glowing eyes is related to the other deadly animatronics, which we will get to right away, as Candy and Cindy are the only threats we meet on our first night. The only thing left to mention is our phone guy for this game, who is not very surprisingly, drumroll please, Emil. So yeah, we are left our message by the phone guy. Nope, not you this time. Wrong series, bro. Or is it? Damn, I'm not even sure myself. The first night he calls us and tells us how they desperately needed somebody for the night shifts as they were short-staffed, and sharing shifts would lead them to being really tired during the day and not being able to get much work done. He also says there's some place called Freddy Fazbear's that closed down recently. He thinks it's because of tax fraud, which might be slightly off.
I always come back.
Anyhow, he then gives us some standard gameplay stuff, which I won't repeat. The only thing I'll say on the phone guy's dialogue here is that it's pretty interesting to listen to. He attempts to explain every single game mechanic through this and explains a lot of stuff about them. It's pretty neat, especially framing the night vision as a necessity and the power meter being necessary because we are on a backup generator, the lights being off to save power and whatnot, the cameras being shitty quality because they're the cheapest the money can buy. The last one's also kind of a meta joke, as Emil stated how he dislikes how the cameras looked because he had to compress them heavily to make the file size small enough for, honestly I have no fucking clue why, but probably something to do with the Click Team engine that he made the game in. Now onwards to the new guy added in night 2, which is Chester the chimpanzee. Look at this silly little monkey. Just a silly little guy playing his silly little banjo. Anyway, his entire gimmick is not much, honestly. At first I was excited because he was behind a Showtime curtain like Foxy is in FNAF 1, but no, he just works exactly like Candy and Cindy, but he starts from a different spot and guns it for us. He takes the left door because he's closer to it, and also has glowing eyes, which means 2 whole nights without cameras being a necessity. Night 3, we are introduced to a whole lot more than one new animatronic, and it breaks our no camera needed streak. The additions are the Penguin, Blank, and Old Candy. These 3 are really interesting, honestly. The least interesting one is the Penguin, sadly, despite him being the cutest piece of art I've seen in a horror game. This little menace is supposed to act as a Balloon Boy clone son of a bitch, and he starts in Cam 12, goes through Cam 2, 3, and then 4. Then he approaches your right door and sadly is another victim of the glowing eyes, making the cameras pointless against him. The unique thing about him though is that since he is much smaller in scale than all of the other animatronics, his eyes are much lower down, but this is exclusively a visual thing. The door still stops him once he is at our door. The other unique thing about him is that he does not tear off your face, but rather once he gets into your office, he just kind of fiddles with all of your buttons until an animatronic makes it through to kill you. He keeps opening, closing everything and fiddling with the lights. If he gets in, it's more or less just a very slow and painful death. Next on our list is Blank, the first character we do need the cameras for. He is this game's Foxy equivalent, in a way. He starts in Cam 11 and stays there for pretty much the entire night. He will go through 3 phases. His normal sitting phase that he has been in for the first 2 nights, his sassy head looking at us phase, and the mom I threw up phase, and he is gone. Where the fuck did you go? Shit! Yeah, in all seriousness now, he leaves and breaks our window to try and kill us. We close the door, however, we will live at the cost of some power. Another fun fact is that just like Foxy in FNAF 1, you can delay in breaking your window for a few seconds if you do not look at Cam 5, which is where you go to see him break your shit. Moving on to Old Candy now, who is another animatronic that requires us to actually use the camera. Nope, not at all. You might think he does, but in reality, no. Before that rant though, he works like this. He starts off in Cam 10 and moves through Cams 9, 8, 7, and 6. Once he is in Cam 6, however, he will not move to your door, but rather he is already there. As he is old and decommissioned, he does not have the glowing eyes everybody else has. This you might think makes it impossible to counter him without looking at the cameras, but in reality he has a slightly quiet sound cue that tells you when he is at the door. And yes, it makes it much easier if you do track him and constantly check him and Blank, but if we're talking optimally, you really do not have to track shit. These are actually all of the threats we meet in the original 5 Nights. Kind of. On night 6, a new animatronic is added that we actually were warned about via the phone guide during night 5. They can appear during night 5, but very rarely, and they are the rat. This is by far the most dangerous character as he can enter both doors, does not have glowing eyes, and he takes the shortest possible routes gunning for our neck, and all of that makes him a fucking menace, honestly. For all of these reasons combined, we are basically required to use the canvas for him, even though theoretically you still don't have to, because he does have a sound cue like old candy, but as he enters both doors and the sound doesn't surround. Terrible joke. Moving on. We need to know where he is all of the time. The best strategy that I found for night 6 and 7 is checking left door, then the right door, opening up cameras and looking at cam 11 to check on blank, and then checking cams 4 and 6 to see if old candy or the rat are there. All of the other animatronics are dealt with using their glowing eyes as a warning. This is pretty much all in terms of the gameplay, so it's about time I mentioned the secrets and lore bits. First of all, between each and every single night we get short little cutscenes of the factory that I previously mentioned. As for the full lore of this game, we get quite a bit as it takes place around when FNAF 2 takes place, which is 1987. Also using the calendar in our office, we can see it somewhere in mid-November. For the paycheck we receive at the end of night 5, and 6, we learn our character is named Mary Schmidt, which unlike in FNAF is a real name that is really important. Throughout the Between Night segments, we learned that she was also a worker at the factory the animatronics were made in. This so far is just a theory, but it is confirmed later on in the second game. Here we also see the puppet, who is for now just a representation of Mary's guilt, using my and your interchangeably while saying my problem, your problem, my monster, your monster, and shit like that. Her guilt is supposed to be because of the rat who went on to kill a bunch of kids, all because she fell asleep on the job at the factory. She also, just like Mike in the original FNAF, gets fired after night 6 for tampering with the animatronics, most likely because she was trying to recode them. We can read this from an Easter egg that shows posters on Cam 3 that change to "you fell asleep and it is your fault." From the lore side, that's pretty much all we get out of the first game. All in all, this entire game I found to be really fun and cool. Not many bugs in the game, but it isn't perfect as well. The most glaring issue is how easy the game is to beat. The only really challenging part of the game is 720 mode. Up until then, you can very easily make it past everything deathless. Concepts of the characters are all really cool, but the eyes just needed to be a staple of Candy and Cindy instead of being added to every single character besides the old ones. By far the coolest gimmick is the overheating of the doors because it rewards skill in the way of knowledge. As soon as you learn how long each animatronic spends on the door, you can conserve your power by quite a bit. The same thing goes for the rat and old Candy, who once you learn their sound effects, you can check really fast to see where they are instead of constantly having to track them. The models for each and every character are also incredibly well built and pretty creative whilst trying to keep the more animal feel to contrast FNAF, who just went more and more human-like. That also works to make Blank stand out even more than he already does. There's also a few Easter eggs in Shadow Candy, who's not that important but is supposed to act like Shadow Bonnie, so yeah, that's cool I guess. You can also see this origami cat, which will be important a lot later in the franchise. The final bigger Easter egg is the King of FNAF himself, Markiplier. He makes an appearance as a non-canon animatronic.
I am the king of Five Nights at Freddy!
The only thing left to talk is how the game is starting to show its age, but thankfully pretty much all I can say there is stuff improved upon in the remaster of the first game, which is exactly where we're going now. The remaster was released on August 14th of 2019, and it actually does provide us with a bit of new stuff alongside revamped visuals that now look amazing and a much needed upscale. All of the upgrades made to this game make it just a factually better experience than the original, but I am nothing if not thorough, so yes, I did play through both. The smallest new thing added is a Dalco marionette as a new Easter egg.
What the hell? Where the hell am I? What is this place? Where am I? Where am I? Where am I?
And yes, don't worry, the king also got updated visuals.
Hey there. Hi. How you doing, kitty cat?
But the real cooker here is the new knight called Knight Null. In this knight we are introduced to the final animatronic of the game in Shadow Candy. He's an actual fucking menace, constantly trying to teleport into our office. While he is attempting this, we need to find him on the cameras with or without night vision, as it doesn't matter if we see him or not. After we find him, he will reset and go back to Camp 13, which is also new. If we do not find him, however, we need to close all the doors, because if this happens, he will slowly drain more and more of our power from our newly updated
Sweet succulent AA batteries.
that give us exact percentages. This knight is by far the most difficult thing in the original and remaster, so here's a quick strategy breakdown. Look for Candy, make him disappear. If he's on cam 4, 5, and 6, shut the respective doors as he will attack. You also must be very quick on your feet, as you have very tight windows to react to all of this. Once the knight is beaten, we are shown this.
I feel that time is bleeding from my hands. Nothing works. I know it should work, but it just doesn't. It's like he's... I guess I just need to sleep. As much as I hate having to spend my time like that. Unconscious and lifeless. Like him. I won't stop until he's absolutely perfect. End of audio log.
That was indeed a teaser for Five Nights at Candy's 4, as this is the most recent mainline release. It also drops us a new Easter egg in Any Night once Night Null is beaten. Puts up this poster of the new candy in a newly unlocked Camp 13. This is pretty much all about this game, but I also had to add that this game feels slightly better balanced than the original. Where the original felt brain dead easy, this one still required a bit of brain power, so yeah, that's neat and all, but let's go onwards to Five Nights at Candy's 2. It was released on February 28th of 2016, and it is the second game in the series. Shocking, I know. It also takes place after the first game story-wise. It has us losing a bet and having to spend 5 nights in a factory that in it has the new and improved versions of the animatronics, aka just the ones from the first game. But they're all really fucked up, both in their visuals and in their gameplay. Yeah, this game is not very well thought out, but I'll go over that one by one with the new animatronics. Once again, our leading characters are Withered New Candy, Withered New Cindy, Withered Chester, even more Withered Blank, and the Withered Penguin. However, once again, on night 6, we have new villainous animatronics in the Rat and a new one known as the Cat. On night 1, we aren't really challenged. This game takes its tutorial approach from FNAF 4 as well. Just lame ass text boxes. I honestly prefer the goofy phone guys in these games, but it's a bit of personal taste. I've heard many people be really annoyed at the phone guys and wanting simpler text boxes, so take it as you will. The only animatronic that causes us any issues this night is Cindy, who doesn't really cause any issues. And that is because her mechanic is dog shit. Yeah, it's dog shit. So I have to elaborate on this game's main mechanic first. The first part of it is our phone. We can flash our phone light at the animatronics in the main hall, but A, this is really inconsistent, and B, they will not reach the main hall. Why won't they reach the main hall, you might ask? Pretty simple. It is because of our camera system. We have a very bare bones camera system only consisting of 6 cameras. Cam 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, and 16. Why are they these specific numbers? Nobody fucking knows. Anyway, alongside these cameras, we have these phone icons next to them, and yes, it is exactly what you FNAF veterans are thinking. It's FNAF 3.
I always come back.
We need to lure the animatronics to the other rooms in order to not let them come murder us. But in this game, it's very consistent, and that's kind of honestly a bad thing. The reason the third game worked despite its attempt at being scary is because Springtrap was a menace. His movements were unpredictable because there was a lot of cameras and the addition of the vents that let him take shortcuts. Him also speeding up during ventilation failures makes him that much more menacing. In this game, the animatronics are very predictable because they only move into the main hall and the 6 cameras. It desperately tries to solve this by adding other gimmicks on other animatronics, but it just does not work in the slightest. It all pretty much boils down to us juggling all the animatronics and a couple of cameras because we don't even have a power meter or some limiter for how long we can use the monitors. And also there is zero cooldown on ringing the phones. The only semblance of cooldown is when an animatronic moves into the room with a ringing phone, they will rake it after a bit. But the original Five Nights have them break it too slow so you can easily react to it and cheese the entire game, and the final night has them reacting too damn fast, making it just generally fucking annoying. Not even hard like the first game was, it's just fucking boring. But moving on a bit faster, on night 2 Chester joins the fray as one of the 2 animatronics that don't use Cindy's mechanic from A to Z. Chester instead appears on the cameras when you hear banging on the vents. And yes, there are actually vents, but only he can use them. He will bang on them until he makes it inside, and to stop him we have to ring a phone in the room he is in. Now this could work really well if the animatronics overlapped. Genuinely, that one change makes this game a decent bit better, but it does offer up the possibility of all the animatronics gathering in one spot, so it just needs a little bit more tweaking to work. If the animatronics overlap, then Chester would be a much bigger issue, as you would have to either quickly bait the animatronics away from Chester or allow them to break a phone. That's pretty much it. On night 3, the Penguin and Candy join the fray. Candy works exactly like Cindy but is a tad faster, and the Penguin is the second and final animatronic that actually uses something new, and he's just the balloon boy from FNAF 3. If we do not change the cameras quickly enough, he scares us and forces a monitor restart, limiting our ding-dong ditch capabilities. Blank is the only one left, and you guessed it, he works exactly like Candy and Cindy but is much less forgiving. Now moving on to night 6, it gets a bit more interesting. All of the animatronics are no longer there and are replaced with the rat and the cat. They both work like the standard animatronics, and as an addition, the rat can act as the penguin and the cat fills in the absence of Chester. They also have a neat change in the fact that they can overlap, making this night actually quite a bit harder but still not insanely hard. A few solid attempts and you will make it past with not too much effort, as long as you have solid reaction times. Night 7 is a custom night, but there is also a night 8 that is just a harder version of night 6 by a really big amount. These modes are incredibly difficult, but they do offer us with some extra lore tidbits, and since I already mentioned it, let's get it started. The lore of the second game I already mentioned a bit, but I did not mention the between night minigames. This game provides a lot more lore and a lot more semi-unique minigames. The post-night 1 minigame has us control Chester to find a key in the restaurant. On entering the office where the key is, the puppet, aka Vinny, is there but instantly leaves. Once we get the key, we use it to open the door that isn't on the first game's cameras, but it is in that restaurant where the rat starts from. This immediately ends the minigame. We also get a bit more world building from these free posters in parts and service. We see the new Candy and Cindy models on the posters next to a Chester poster crossed off with an X, which most likely means he will not be getting a newer version like the main cast will. The Night 2 minigame has us playing as the Penguin searching for 3 broken pieces of Chester, furthering the idea that he is being scrapped. We need to collect the pieces and put them into a cardboard box at our start point one by one. The 2 small things within this minigame are Chester's curtained location from the first game now being blocked off by caution tape, and we can also find Blank and Active in the drawing room, who we control on night 3. We need to find 4 children's drawings. After viewing all of these, the minigame ends. There is, however, a lot of small details. The chairs change their colors, meaning that the place is getting redecorated. Chester's curtains are completely fucking gone, and the drawings also give us a few changes for the kids' eyes. They show a few memories, but most notably this one that reads, "Where is Chester?" Night 4 has us running around as Cindy, starting from the main stage looking for Candy's tie, which is located inside the office. Blank is once more also back in the drawing room. Upon picking up the tie, the minigame ends. Night 5, we are now her counterpart in Candy. There's now only one half open where we will pass by some police officers before finding a dead guard, followed by some faint laughing in the background. We continue to the left side of the building the long way.
Peanut butter jelly the long way.
Only to find the rat's door wide fucking open. Moving further will make the door close and police officers rush us alongside a technician, and the minigame ends. Night 6 also surprisingly has another minigame that has us play as Old Candy. We follow Shadow Candy through the restaurant and notice the chairs back in their old colors, but Chester's area is still missing, meaning this takes place before the first game and before Chester was even put into the new location. We continue following Shadow Candy into parts and service, where we find a technician working. Upon approaching him, he rushes over to us and ends the minigame. This isn't the end, however, as it continues us, now playing as Blank, once again finding children's drawings scattered throughout the restaurant. Pictures collected give us a little bit more lore, but nothing important. But upon collecting the 4th one and leaving the room, we are shown the final 5th image, which looks like this. Upon us dropping the picture, we see Shadow Candy in front of us, and it continues on to a 3rd damn minigame. It helps us playing as Old Candy. We find a crying child in the office and make him happy, only to find the child being told off by an adult who we approach, and the minigame finally fucking ends. Or not. Once completing night 8, we get a 4th star on the menu screen, which will flicker, and clicking it brings us to a bonus minigame. This final minigame has us playing as a young Mary Schmidt. It is unclear exactly where we are, and the only thing we can do is walk to a stage where there's a bunch of happy children watching the rat and the cat who are not yet with her. Mary's brother then enters and runs up to the edge of the stage when the rat slowly reaches out towards the boy. Everybody goes from happy to shitting their pants in a single frame, and the minigame ends leaving us with the message to be continued. This is all pretty obviously showing us a small preview of the third game's story. This is all of the lore that we get from this game, and while it doesn't necessarily push the story forward, besides giving more lore about Mary being in the factory before our main character Marilyn. She's the one that loses the bet and has to spend time here. Noticing the last name leaves us with a few questions, but the most logical answer is that she's the daughter of Mike Schmidt from the original FNAF game and Mary Schmidt, who is our main protagonist in the first Candies game. It does fill in a lot of holes in the lore that will be crucial in the third game as well. We get a lot more world building in terms of the Candies location and remodeling, from a simple show about a rat and a cat to a bigger restaurant with tons of new characters. The last thing to mention here is these extras, which are just a lot of cool dev stuff, so here it is for all 2 of you like me who find it interesting. For those 2 of you, the other Easter eggs in this game are Scribble Nettie, who's shown as an animatronic in Camp 14, and for those unaware, she is a YouTuber. Alongside her, if we type Mark on our keyboard during the night, it plays this dumb sound of him making spooky noises. Pop Goes from another Fanverse project is also shown on Cam 11 in the form of drawing. Also, small spoiler alert, that will probably be one of my upcoming videos, so stay tuned and maybe subscribe. Now finally, it is time for us to move to the, so far, final mainline game. Five Nights at Candy's Free was released on March 5th of 2017, and I wholeheartedly wish that it wasn't. I have a lot of strong feelings about this game, but let's just go over the rest before I rant for a while about it. This game takes a lot of inspiration from FNAF 4 for its standard gameplay cycle. It also offers up a fuck ton of lore with its minigames and Deep Space. Deep Space takes place before the nights start, and the minigames take place after the nights. I will go over both of these after the gameplay, as it is better to bunch it together. The gameplay cycle is very simple, and we only really have to worry about 1 to 2 threats a night. Monster Rat is our main antagonist, and he actually has a lot to go over. In our office, which is our bedroom in this game, there are 3 doors. The door to the room, the closet, and the wardrobe. We also have to look under the bed for certain things, and it has a right side and a left side. We can see both just by flicking down, but we do have to look side to side to see exactly what is left and what is right. The last gameplay gimmick is our tape recorder. It doubles the speed that the night goes by on while it is playing, but it lasts for only about a minute before it has to be rewound. We can rewind it early if we pause the tape and click rewind. Besides that, the only button available to us is the play button. Now, fucking rat bastard. I'll knock on any of the 3 doors and we have to find him and flash our rinky-dink flashlight at his eyes to make him leave. If we are too slow, he will enter our bedroom and start this Osubi map fucking sequence. Why not, I guess. We have to keep flashing him until we get this 2-second cutscene where he will either scurry out the door or go under the bed. If he runs away, we just repeat flash the entrances until he comes in again. If he goes under the bed though, we need to check if he is under the left side of the bed or the right side. We then go on to the opposite side of the bed until we hear creaking. Once we hear the creaking, we need to turn around and flash him for a bit until he leaves the room. This is the entire night. The rat tries to come in and we need to fight him off until he leaves. He is the only animatronic that threatens us for the first 2 nights, and on night 3, Monster Cat joins the fray and he's a fucking joke. He'll appear at one of the 2 corners of the bed after a faint whisper, and all we have to do is flash him for a bit until he leaves. He's much simpler and barely a threat. The only time you can even theoretically die to him is if he comes during the Osu sequences and you don't manage to shoo him away in time. These are the only 2 pieces of shit that fuck with us on the original 5 nights. On night 6 we have Monster Vinny, aka the puppet ripoff. He's a much harder version of the rat with a few twists, quite literally. He can scurry to a different side during these Osu sequences and you just have to follow him around. Besides that, he works the exact same way, but just a lot fucking harder. This game's final challenge is named Shadow Challenge in the game. There are 3 challenges you can play through the entire game again with. They are Laser Pointer, which makes the flashlight smaller, making it harder to aim, My wake up music, which forces the tape recorder to be always on, as if it doesn't, your screen will slowly darken until you pass out. It also does not speed up the night's time, so have fun with this 10-minute fucking night. The last one is Silent Night. Prevents the tape recorder from making any sound. You can still speed up the time, but you have to go off a feeling when it requires rewinding and shit. You can also toggle all of them simultaneously, so good luck with that. That's pretty much all about the gameplay, and now it is time for the very extensive lore. So let's go over the Deepscape fully first, as it has a ton of lore to go over. The Deepscape changes after every completed night, but honestly I'm just going to show you everything you can find in here, not how to get it, as I am way too fucking lazy for that. The only one I will highlight is the first night's Deepscape, as it requires you to find the tape recorder you used during the nights. Because of that, it is the singular night where the Deepscape is not avoidable. Past that, it's completely optional. Also necessary to note that in the Deepscape, we do not follow this lit up path. Either the Shadow Rat or the Shadow Cat will start chasing you. The same goes for if the timer that appears on every night except the first runs out, because it just doesn't have a timer on night 1. Okay, so let's start with the papers we can find here, but before that, huge shout out to the entire community who continuously compiles this stuff on fan wikis, as they've been a huge resource and help to my research for this video. So here are all of the transcripts that are found within the Deepscape.
After closing so soon, the brand new wire animatronics were sent back to. Rumors are circulating that the animatronics will be used as a base for newer designs of advanced, fully mobile animatronics, which are speculated to be used for a future project.
This is talking about the animatronics from the first 2 games, as this game takes place a lot before those games, as we will find out soon enough.
On the reopening day of the Rat and Cat Theater, one of the mechanical puppets were reported to have behaved strangely. The puppet supposedly malfunctioned and attacked the child on its own. Technicians at the crime scene could not see any for the puppet to have acted without input from its control panel. The employee who was controlling the puppet claims that the puppet moved on its own and that he was only trying to stop it. The employee was arrested at the scene and is currently awaiting trial.
This is referring to Vinny's owner, who is known as a puppeteer.
The Rat and Cat Theater reopening, we're proud to present the Rat and the Cat back on the stage and ready for brand new adventures.
This is the location before Candies that was originally known as the Rat and Cat Theater. This does in fact mean that there is an even older location which we know nothing about so far.
Safety. The Rat and Cat Theater has been approved as capable of ensuring fully safety to all customers. The puppets are non-autonomous and are controlled safely by experts.
Just some legal shit.
Enjoy the shows. Enjoy the company. We even have free arcade machines you can enjoy while you wait.
Simple marketing materials talking about a newly opened spot.
The Rat and Cat Theater, the perfect place of entertainment for children of all ages. We have a show every one of the 5 weekdays.
More marketing.
Everyone will have fun, even the adults. We have an area for adults to chat while enjoying free coffee.
Even more marketing.
The brand new horror film Psychopath starring has broken box office records in its first week. Everyone agrees that the starring actor sold the performance of the psychopath like no one else could have.
I have no clue what this is actually about, but it could be one of the actors for the Rat, Cat, or the Puppeteer.
The theater was never meant as a permanent career for me. It was always my dream to be a professional actor, comments.
One of the actors wanted to be a big shot actor instead of a costume mascot performing for kids.
Medical experts say that the first actor died from asphyxiation. The other actor died from hitting the nape against the edge of the table after he fell. It is presumed that he was passing out from the adrenaline rush after the fight with his colleague. He was paralyzed before he died from bleeding out. One expert says he could very well have been able to see and hear while paralyzed. What a scary thing to experience.
Talking about the traumatic incident, which we will go over later on.
The actors playing the Rat and the Cat in the theater show were found dead in the staff room by the actor playing the puppeteer. One actor was under the influence and died after strangling his opponent with a ring on the underside of the head of the costume. The costume heads were airtight, and the actors had to get air through the gap around the costume's necks.
More lore about that incident.
A brutal ending to an otherwise joyful theater occurred here yesterday when two of the actors had fought each other right before the show of the day was supposed to start.
Even more lore about that incident. Those are all of the news articles we can find around the Deepscape. The other things of note are these NPCs in form of a race car, unicorn, teapot, robot, and a duck. They're actually of sizable importance as they are a necessity to get an ending that is also connected to these game cartridges that we need to find to unlock free minigames that give us another ending. These minigames are Fishing with Candy, Cindy's Garden, and Candy's Adventure. An additionally interesting thing here to mention is that Candy's Adventure is what will one day become Fnac Fur, a spin-off game that I'll talk a little bit more about after this. Each of these minigames are found in the extras menu, and if you max out their scores, an additional minigame that gives us more lore. Fishing with Candy has us catch different kinds of fish and avoid trash falling on the screen. If we reach 9,999 score, it glitches out and gives us another fucking minigame. In this one we play as Mary, walking around what seems to be the FNAF 2 pizzeria with a lot of rooms blocked off by bunches of kids. After walking around we find a room with a puppet and it'll start turning into Vinny. This could mean that the puppeteer originally worked at Fazbear's and took the puppet from there, but that's not important at fucking all for now. The important thing here is that it takes place before Five Nights at Candy's 1. There's also another fucking minigame connected to the fishing minigame. To unlock this one, we need to talk to the toy unicorn in the Deepscape who will give us a code. If we catch the fish in this order, after talking to the unicorn, as it is indeed a prerequisite, we can get a so-called lollipop minigame. In this one, we play as a unicorn chasing a character named Lollipop, and eventually they'll stop and the screen will fade to black as they laugh. The second extras minigame, Cindy's Garden, has us playing fucking whack-a-mole for some reason, and after we get another 9,999 points, again the screen glitches out, and in the next minigame we play as the cat running around the factory. We need to find the children and bring them to a machine by the rat. When they are put in the machine, they turn into Candy and Cindy. Then it cuts to static. This is weird as shit, but clear enough if we know the OG FNAF lore. Is it really that simple? Most likely not. To get the next lollipop minigame out of Cindy's Garden, we need to talk to the toy duck who will give us another code that reads, if we hit the holes in that order before we lose all our lives, the lollipop minigame will instantly pop up. It is just Crossy Road where we play as the duck. The final unlockable minigame, Candy's Adventure, has us playing as Old Candy trying to make our way to the dog boss. It is by far the longest and hardest minigame to beat, but once you do, we get the glitch minigame where we play as the rat and have to reach the office and avoid the other animatronics' lines of sight. Once we make it to the office, we can see what is presumably the night guard before Mary getting slightly murderized at the first location. To access the lollipop minigame here, we must talk to the race car who will basically tell us get 100 coins. A lot of these are hidden, so it's quite a pain in the ass. Once we do, we have to go back all the way to the start where there's a secret pathway above the entrance. We go there and find Lollipop. He gives us a speech and gives us a minigame where we race him. Once we beat him for the final time, kinda, we need to go back to the Dreamscape to find this very well hidden tea kettle who will tell us to look where everyone is gathered. This is telling us to go into the extras menu, find him hidden right here. Once we find him and click on him, we get this tiny boss battle. After all of that, we just get this. Now, moving on, there's also the minigames after beating the Knights, which have us playing hide and seek with mascots at the Rat and Cat Theater. On the Night 5 minigame, however, we play with them and enter the staff only room only to see this argument between colleagues. You also get another mini cutscene post night 6 that looks like this. Quickly here is also all the endings texts, which I'll shortly just gloss over. It all tells us about the traumatic experience that Mary witnessed and how she subconsciously blocked it out. Spending a while in therapy though allows her to find out the truth and come to terms with her own grief. Now that is all of the lore shit hidden throughout the game, I hope, and I'll cover the complete lore of this game in the final lore recap so that I don't repeat myself like 30 times. The last thing before my rant is the Easter eggs, which there's quite a bit of. There's these wood blocks in the room that spell a meal, creator's name, your origami cat that I completely forgot to mention who serves as our guide and tutorial for this game, who can be found in the bedroom and knocked over. And this also leads to a short ending. If we talk to it after knocking it over for the first 4 nights, on the 5th night's Deepscape it will give us this ending. There's also a few more Easter eggs, like this Dogcom marionette, the Smite plushie, Jacksepticeye is referenced in these little dangling things, there's another Markiplier plushie, and that's pretty much all that I can see. I might have forgotten a few. Time for my honest opinion, and oh boy do I have a lot. This is by far the coolest and the most dogshit fucking game I have ever played. It fucking sucks because it was so hype and looked so fucking cool. Especially taking the FNAF 4 aesthetic and gameplay that I personally find to be the most terrifying game in the series. This game does a lot right, and I just don't want to shit on it, but it has so many small problems that pile up more and more and just make the experience of the gameplay so fucking awful. Some specific things that I absolutely hated were the fact there isn't surround sound. There's a different noise to indicate from where the threats are coming from, but you can't tell me that surround sound isn't a necessity when making this type of game. Secondly, I did not sign up to play fucking Osu. I signed up to play a fucking FNAF fan game. The gameplay works, but not in a sit and survive layout. Like, make this game into a fucking Osu map, slap an anime girl background on that and a Nightcore song, and I'm grinding that fucking shit for 10 hours. Next problem is the incredibly annoying bugs. There's a bug where when you're looking at one of the entrances and the animatronic spawns there, it just won't appear. You need to look at the furthest door away from you and look back to make him appear. This is just such an infuriating bug as it brings about even more of the Osu segments. Next issue I have is not a bug but a feature. Tape recorder can sometimes bug out when an animatronic is under your bed and start making a fucking shit ton of noise. This just makes it even more infuriating since the creaking of them leaving from under the bed is the quietest sound in the game. I do have to add a small detail that is genuinely cool in this game though. So just so it's not 5 minutes of me shitting on this game, there's a bunch of sounds coming from outside the house, like cars passing by, leaves rustling, cicadaing. Yeah, anyway, that's just pretty cool and I thought I should mention it. And the last thing I hate is that the game is genuinely too dark. Instead of very faintly seeing the room outside your flashlight range, you just can't see shit. It's just a black fucking darkness. That is pretty much all I have to say about this game's gameplay, which means I'm done shitting on it, as the story, secrets, minigames, designs, ambiance, and basically everything except the damn gameplay is so incredible that I really can't say anything besides good fucking job to the creator. genuinely. Now that is finally all I have to say, so time to tackle the final bits and pieces, starting with the demo of Fnac Fur. Fnac Fur, which has us going around as both Candy and Cindy picking up Candy's loose fur. It's a platformer with one singular combat mechanic in the swipe. You go around, chat with a bunch of NPCs and complete quests for them. Well, at least that's what the full version will be about. For now, we walk around to find a few things that lead pretty much nowhere for now. It is a cool looking game and it'll be a fun FNAF world to the Five Nights at Candy series, just as Emil Mako stated. Now, before I give my final thoughts, I have to give a very short lore recap of everything. Game's timeline has its start with the third game, going to the first game and lastly the second game. Fourth game we do not know much about, but it looks like it will most likely be set in the future with newer versions of Candy and the folk. In the first and third game we play as Mary Schmidt, but in the second we play as what is presumably her daughter, Marilyn. She got taken by her dad to the local theater to watch the Rat and Cat show all the time as a kid, but one day while she was playing hide and seek with the other kids and the actors in the mascot suits, she enters the employees only area. The Rat's actor chases after her, telling her she shouldn't be in there, but the puppeteer interrupts, entering, telling him he cannot be drunk on the job, and they get into a fight. It quickly escalates, however, when the puppeteer pushes the Rat, who hits his head on the corner of a table and dies on the spot. The Cat's actor enters, and the puppeteer surprisingly tells the truth of it being an accident. Nobody blames him, but he refuses to call the police to get it all sorted out, and instead chokes out the cat as well. He then finally calls the police, with the story being that the Rat and Cat fought and it got wildly out of hand. All of this while poor Mary is in the closet watching and listening to everything. After this, Mary spends a lot of time in therapy trying to remember this event and find a way to get over her trauma. Eventually, she does manage to do exactly that, but this cycle of bad shit happening only continues. Mary eventually gets a job at a factory where the animatronics are produced, when one day she falls asleep on the job, causing the animatronic rat to kill a bunch of kids. To try and atone for her mistakes, she goes and takes up a night guard position at the newly opened restaurant. She takes this opportunity to fiddle with the animatronics to try and make them not aggressive. She's basically trying to stop future incidents from happening, as she, throughout her nights, found that every single animatronic has something fucking wrong with them because they're just straight up trying to kill her. Now a bit disconnected, but somewhere down the line, her presumed daughter loses a bet and has to spend 5 nights at the old factory. At the end of those 5 days, the factory is also demolished. Additionally, if we die in this game, we get small mini endings in the form of these newspapers we get when killed by the rat or the cat. This is the extent of the lore so far, and I think it's a really cool story of a cycle of grief and constantly trying to fix the mistakes she makes in the past. Not much more to say until we see the next step in this franchise. So in the lore side of things and in the gameplay side of things, that is pretty much it. All in all, the Five Nights at Candy series has had its ups and downs. First game, which is a banger, the second game being underwhelming, the third game giving it a resurgence that I absolutely hated but everybody loved, and the franchise only seems to be on the uptrend. The release of Five Nights at Candy's one remastered, bringing new people in on the series and reminding old heads like me that it exists. Also getting a continuation soon enough with the announcement of Five Nights at Candy's 4 and even a fucking spin-off game that I cannot wait to play. This series has been fun to watch over the years as it grew with the fanbase. Now with the 4th game heading our way, I truly believe it will be even more mature and horrifying as the creator and the community never stopped growing. What started out as a scary game slightly going for a child demographic has grown up with us for the past 10 fucking years. It's been a wild ride, and I think this small series of fan games that went from a passion project to being backed by Scott Coffin himself represents the journey wonderfully. Now with all that being said, that's it for me. Bye bye!